welcome to Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Mr. Abhishek Rastogi, partner, Khaitan Company, advocate, Supreme Court, and various high courts joining in. Welcome to the show, Abhishek, and it's always a pleasure to speak to you and actually get so much insights from a taxation perspective from new investment styles as well. Today, in fact, the point of discussion that we're going to have is in terms of NFTs. I think, everyone hears about NFTs, a lot of people talking about it. Firstly, no one really actually knows what NFTs are. What's the benefit of investing in NFTs? And thirdly, what's the taxation angle to it as well? So, welcome to the show, Abhishek.
Thanks a lot. And it means a lot to me also that you regularly invite me. And it's always a pleasure to interact with you.
Thank you so much. Abhishek, my first question coming to you is for the benefit of the viewers, if you can just explain to us as to what are these NFTs, how did they originate according to you, and what are we seeing in terms of the progress in a country like India?
So I think, what are these NFTs? Let's just understand what this actually is. As you are aware that these are non-fungible tokens. In common parlance, these are technology and are backed by smart contracts, and we'll come to blockchain and smart contracts in a while. But let's just understand these NFTs more from the perspective of what these products are. So I would explain it by way of some examples. So let's say I have a residential unit in Miami and I get an NFT of that unit, which means that if I buy that NFT, then whenever I'm going to Miami, I may get an access to visit that property or to stay in that property. Now, these NFTs are generally those NFTs which expire upon burning. So which means that once you exhaust your right, the NFT gets burnt and it's over. So you could buy that today and you could redeem that or burn it out in 1 year, 2 years as per the validity period. So, you get a right. So while there is a physical property, you get a right to access to that property and enjoy the benefit, and the NFT gets burnt upon expiry. That's the first sort. And a lot of people are interested in that. If you intend to go to Goa or to places like Miami, etc., you would want to have a property, you would want to have an access. And you could always, tell to your friends that possibly I own that place, because in a way you are an effective owner. But the NFT gets burnt when you visit or you burn your right with respect to that NFT. So that's the first thing, which NFT gets to you, a right. The second type of NFTs, if you could see, could be for the purposes of authenticity. So, for example, if there is a painting and we would want to use the blockchain technology, or the artist would want to use the blockchain technology, so that even if the painting passes to several hands, the authenticity is maintained. So there will be a blockchain technology would give a token to the painting, and the authenticity maintains, and any person who buys that painting knows the authentic source of that painting, knows the origin of that painting, and hence NFTs through blockchain technology could be useful as well. That's the second classification I would want to do. The third is a little hilarious. Don't laugh on it. So we know that today we have Taj Mahal. Now, let's say the state of UP wants to sell Taj Mahal, right? They would create NFTs, and these NFTs will be traded in smaller fractions. So what they will do is that they will sell Taj Mahal. Now the Taj Mahal is not sold, like physically sold, right? But there will be a sale which will happen in smaller fractions, allowing different people to claim ownership of the same through NFT. Now what happens? Of course, you would not get the right to live in Taj Mahal, possibly not. But you may have exclusive right during a particular day, let's say on Friday or some particular day, when you could go and visit Taj Mahal exclusively, during sunset or sunrise and so on and so forth. So in this case, the right is traded, and it is traded in a fractional way. It could be traded. Now, for example, if for Taj Mahal, such fractional rights are given to 10,000 people, there could be a value assigned to each unit.
Mm.
And that unit can fluctuate in terms of value over the period of time. If you bought it for 1 lakh rupees, then it could go to 2 lakh rupees in some time, and the trading happens in a smaller quantity. And there is a blend because you get some right also. This right could be a right to access in this case, and not possibly an exclusive right the way you had for the Miami property. And of course, here in this category, there is nothing called authentication because, nobody would want to go into that authentication. Now, there could be last category, which is also becoming very popular now, is in terms of sound, videos, music, poetry. And we saw that, Amitabh Bachchan, the GST controversy which happened with respect to this video and poetry and so on and so forth. These are also becoming increasingly popular. A lot of popular stars, Bollywood stars, singers, etc., are using this NFT medium to reach out to a larger crowd, getting larger attention, giving the ownership also in some fractional way to these participants or the audiences or who buys those. So these are becoming popular as well. And you spoke about, popularity in India. We have recently seen, this NFT launched by Amitabh Bachchan. Of course, there were GST controversies and the tax has been paid. But yes, there are a lot of controversies with respect to taxation on these NFTs because it's a new product which is coming. The tax regulations have to change with the pace with which the technology is changing. Today, there are new innovative ways which are coming to deal with businesses, supplies, the definition of supplies, actionable claims, all that is happening. So even the legislation has to change to match the pace.
Right. So with all of this said and done, how does one purchase these NFTs? I know there are a lot of platforms that are available, but what is the mode of payment? Because the maximum that everyone is aware of that it's mainly traded and paid through cryptocurrencies. So is there any other method that the government is also looking at?
See, trading in cryptocurrency is also nothing but happening through the medium of banking channel. Because even if you buy any crypto, you would end up using your banking channels. Correct. Of course, there are cash transactions also, but a person who's of genuine background and would want to enter only into legitimate transactions would enter into normal banking transactions. And you would remember 2018 circular, which was issued by RBI to ban bank to deal with cryptocurrencies. We had challenged that in Delhi High Court and then in Supreme Court. We got a favorable order that such a ban by the banking entities through the RBI circular is not constitutional. And hence, subsequent to this decision of Supreme Court, any investment in cryptocurrencies can happen legitimately through the banking channels. And once you invest in these cryptocurrencies, that digital asset is nothing but your cash. Now, of course, when you deal in NFTs, most of these transactions are happening through the digital assets. But soon it will be reality that the digital assets in terms of NFTs are not traded only through cryptocurrencies such as bitcoins, etc. These could be traded directly through the banking channels. And today the problem is that we need to have more robust regulations in this regard. We need to have regulations governing these transactions, and the Indian government is in the process of finalizing that. And once that happens, you buy it through either cryptocurrencies or through banking channels, it will be all very common and simple.
Right. And how does the taxation side of it work? Because initially we did see a TDS on NFTs as well. Then we've been talking of GST. So how is that framework on the taxation front currently? And are you expecting things to change from here on?
See, I think Budget 2022, the government came out with very pragmatic changes. One, to include NFTs and cryptocurrencies into digital virtual assets. The intention is very clear that the treatment as far as tax is concerned, the direct tax is concerned, will have to be slightly different for these transactions. And hence there was a lot of restrictions, taxation at 30% rate, the higher rate, no set off. If you remember, after the budget, we did that presentation also, wherein we said that, no set off of losses, no carry forward of losses, a lot of these restrictions, because the government wants to possibly augment a lot of revenue from these transactions, and they want to tax it at 30%. So I think on the direct tax side, those announcements were happened. The definition has changed under Section 2 to include NFTs into digital virtual assets. All that has happened. I think more important, what is relevant is what happens on the indirect tax side, on the GST side, because how would you classify these NFTs? Are these goods or are these services? And the exact controversy which happened in even Mr. Bachchan's case was whether these should be classified as goods or services, or whether the higher rate should be made applicable. Unfortunately, Mr. Bachchan did not approach me, because according to me, as per the current taxation system, there cannot be any tax, because my view is that they would fall within the actionable claim. So if that argument is taken, these are neither goods nor services. If these are traded freely, then would they fall within the definition of securities? We know for a fact that anything which falls within the definition of security, only the margin or the commission gets taxed, like the way it happens in equity market. Now, what happens in that case is that if you fall within securities, and we are arguing matters with respect to renewable energy certificates also, which are, by the way, traded on power exchanges. Now, this also is a trading which happens. The NFTs are also traded, but the trading doesn't happen on the exchange. It does not happen on a formal exchange. Today, we know for a fact that even the gold will now soon be traded, and the Prime Minister will be making that inauguration with respect to this bullion trading. Now, the question which will come up is that when this trading happens, today shares are traded, RECs are traded, tomorrow bullion will be traded, and when NFTs are also traded on the stock exchange, will they fall within the definition of securities? And that opens the Pandora box of whether these are goods, these are services, these are actionable claims, or they are securities, and only the fee which is incidental to that trading must be subject to tax, and not the underlying value.
Right. So currently, Abhishek, how does the framework work according to you?
So as far as current position is concerned, we will have to go into different set of transactions. So how these work by way of contracts, and there are smart contracts now. So let's say if I am the originator and I have created that NFT and I sell that NFT. So the question is whether there is transfer of right to use or right to use, which is being given. Assuming that there is transfer of right to use, then for every subsequent sale which happens down the line, the originator gets royalty. Now, royalties are nothing but represent a value for the IP, the intellectual property. Now, if that be the case, then there is a clear element of service which gets rendered, and it falls within the purview of GST, because services are taxable at 18%, because most of these services now are at 18%. So which means that the royalty which is earned by the original NFT creator gets taxed at 18%. Now, what happens to the subsequent transactions? So for instance, or for that matter, some other transactions. My example of a house in Miami. Now, if there is a transfer of ownership with respect to that right, and it is not a burnt out NFT, then is it akin to sale of building? And sale of building and properties out of GST. So whether the NFT, to that extent which transfers ownership, or the right in the property gets the treatment of underlying supply, which is nothing but transfer of ownership in property. And it should not be taxable. The related point is that if I get a right which gets burnt, right, because I get an access to that property for 3 days, 4 days, and that is burnt. So that is nothing, because that is not the transfer of ownership in property, but that is basically a leasing right which I get. So will that be a service? So all of these questions will come up. Early days, but yes, it will be completely fact-driven, because there will be a lot of complexities with respect to goods versus services, classification which happens, then whether this is security or actionable claim, then there could be a lot of complexities with respect to barter. There could be a barter transaction which may happen. Then how would you classify and value a barter transaction? So there could be an NFT. The NFT goes by way of a right, and the person who accesses that NFT by way of burning may actually not pay anything with respect to NFT, but may give some service instead of making the payment in Bitcoin or virtual currency or actual money. Now, if there is a barter transaction, then what happens and how do you value that? Will be the question mark which will come in these days, because we understand that a lot of these transactions would be with respect to barter. You give information technology services, and in return you get to stay in Miami for a month or an access to that for a month. So what happens in those barter transactions will be a subject matter of dispute, because the valuation, it is difficult to value that service or that supply.
Right. And with all of this, recently you had Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also came in and gave a statement saying that, a lot will be needed to effectively ban cryptocurrencies and digital assets in terms of really collaborating globally. Do you think there is any possibility that this could be banned? Because even I think yesterday also there was an argument, and the Finance Ministry did speak a lot about it on the NFT side of it.
See, I think a very interesting aspect. I would divide the response in two parts. One is the money laundering part. So, for a fact that only a couple of days back, the matters which we were arguing for decriminalization of statutes for customs, GST, and money laundering, the money laundering part has been held to be constitutionally valid, which means that arrests can happen when there is a money laundering. So that is one part of it, the legal and the constitutional side of it. The bigger problem which not only the Indian government, but other governments may face with respect to money laundering is that lot of these transactions may seem legitimate on papers, but they may actually be not legitimate at all. They are intended to conceal the flow of illicit proceeds. That will be very difficult to track. Now, on paper, it may look that it's a sale of NFT or a transfer of NFT or a right, but actually the proceeds could be for something else, could be for drug abuse, human trafficking, and so on and so forth. So the linking is becoming difficult. And because all of this is through blockchain, all of this is through virtual digital assets, cryptocurrencies, that adds to the problem. So one is the money laundering problem, the decriminalization and the criminalization part of it. And the second is the flow of the money which happens. So I think most of the governments, including the Indian government, wants to play a little carefully, to be very cautious. They would not want money laundering, all of these illegal activities to happen in the garb of this NFTs. And hence they want, to do more brainstorming and to ensure that these are regulated in the best mechanism.
Right. And how long do you think will it take, lastly, Abhishek, for this segment to actually stabilize? Because see, the way it took GST almost 5 years to even reach this stage, this in itself is a pretty new industry that everyone is looking at. So how long do you think will it take to stabilize in India?
See, I think I would answer it in a different way. More than the stabilization which may happen in terms of regulations, policies, taxation policies, systems, compliances, and so on and so forth, we must understand that this industry is moving at a very fast pace when it comes to innovation. So, for example, if we talk about metaverse platforms, what are these platforms? You would want to play an online game. You would want to go on Xbox or Wii, and you are playing tennis there, but you want 18 number t-shirt, which is worn by Virat Kohli, or a 10 number t-shirt, which is worn by Tendulkar. You want 10 number t-shirt, face of Tendulkar, to play tennis, right? With the music which you would want to play in the background. Now, all this is happening through NFTs now. So, which means that as we speak, new products are getting developed. new interlinks are happening, synchronization with different sectors is happening. So online game, NFTs, rights are getting synchronized. So what will happen is, by the time there will be regulations or policies with respect to the current system, there will be a lot of permutations and combinations of new supplies or new offerings which may come. And every time those offerings or new products will come, there may be a possibility that there is a disruption in terms of the policies or the taxation policies with respect to the earlier supplies. We have seen that in online gaming. The way the fundamental way of online gaming system has changed over the period of time has led to new thinking process every time. And today we are talking about a distinction between online gaming as vis-a-vis casinos, horse racing, and so on and so forth. So by the time you try to regulate a part of it, you find that there are new products, new supplies, new diverse ways of managing the show. So I think the answer is that our legislative framework has to match the pace of the change of the sector, and that's the answer.
Absolutely, very well put, Abhishek. And I think that's something which is absolutely crucial from here on. And this is a great segment that everyone is watching out for as well. Let's see what the government does on this end. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. A great conversation that we've had, and something which all the viewers will take back with them as well on the NFT front. Lots more discussions that we will continue to have in the similar fashion on other subjects related to GST. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.